The middle class, long considered the bedrock of economic stability, social mobility, and widespread opportunity in developed nations, is now facing unprecedented challenges that have made it increasingly fragile and vulnerable across countries like the United States and much of Europe. This profound shift is far from accidental. Rather, it represents a structural outcome driven by several interconnected economic forces that have systematically reshaped our societies over the past few decades, particularly since the 1970s. One of the most significant factors contributing to this is the productivity wage split, a trend clearly observed since the 1970s where worker productivity has soared dramatically due to technological advances and efficiency gains. Yet real wages for the majority of workers have largely stagnated or grown only minimally. This growing divergence implies that while the overall economy generates substantially more wealth through higher output, a disproportionately smaller share of that wealth actually reaches the pockets of middle-income households, leaving them behind in the gains. Globalization and the rise of increased labor competition have also played a crucial role, as multinational companies relocated production to regions with significantly lower labor costs, such as from the US and Europe to Asia, thereby reducing the bargaining power and job security of domestic workers in developed nations. This heightened global interconnectedness has exerted consistent downward pressure on wages across many key sectors like manufacturing and services, making it progressively harder for the middle class to maintain or improve its economic standing amid fierce international competition. Another critical aspect fueling this fragility is the growing disparity between asset inflation and wage inflation, where the value of key assets like housing prices and stock market values has dramatically outpaced modest wage growth over the last several decades. This dynamic creates a stark wealth divide, as individuals and families with significant assets, such as homeowners or investors, see their net worth balloon rapidly through appreciation, while those primarily relying on wage income struggle to keep pace with rising costs. Simultaneously, the cost of living has shifted dramatically upward, with essential expenses such as housing rents and mortgages, healthcare premiums and treatments, and higher education tuition soaring far beyond the reach of typical average wage increases experienced by middle-class workers. These rapidly escalating costs mean that even households with relatively stable incomes find their purchasing power steadily eroded over time, rendering it increasingly difficult to save meaningfully, build emergency funds, or invest for retirement and future security. As a result, many middle-class households have been forced to resort to debt as a makeshift substitute for stagnant income growth, taking on more loans, credit card balances, and mortgages just to maintain their previous standard of living or cover rising unexpected expenses. However, this heavy reliance on debt fosters a precarious and unstable financial situation for these families, leaving them highly vulnerable to economic downturns, interest rate hikes, or job losses, and further undermining their long-term financial security and resilience. Policy choices implemented by governments have also played a significant and often overlooked role in accelerating the shrinking of the middle class, particularly through changes in tax structures, reduced labor protections, and shifts in regulatory frameworks. Increasingly over recent decades, these policies have tilted the balance to favor capital owners and high earners over labor, leading to a dangerous concentration of wealth at the very top of the income distribution and sharply limiting upward mobility opportunities for the middle class. Concrete examples include substantial tax cuts for corporations and the wealthiest individuals, alongside the weakening of labor unions and collective bargaining rights, all of which have directly contributed to the persistent widening of the income gap between the top and the middle. Compounding these challenges, the erosion of social safety nets, such as cuts to public services, healthcare subsidies, and unemployment benefits, has placed an even greater financial burden squarely on the shoulders of middle-income families already under strain. The combined and reinforcing effect of these powerful forces, stagnant wages despite rising productivity, intense global competition, asset inflation outstripping wages, soaring living costs, surging household debt, and unfavorable policy choices, creates an overwhelming current relentlessly working against the stability of the middle class. Ultimately, this is a deeply structural and entirely predictable outcome of these interconnected economic dynamics, rather than merely a series of random or isolated incidents that has led to the current widespread fragility of this vital socioeconomic group. Gaining a clear understanding of these underlying dynamics is absolutely crucial for policymakers, economists, and citizens alike in order to develop and implement effective, targeted strategies to rebuild, strengthen, and sustain the middle class, paving the way for a more equitable, resilient, and stable economic future for everyone.